Well, hello and thank you for joining our One Spatial webinar. My name's David Eagle and this is going to be a session on custom transformers. I'm the FME Division Manager at One Spatial Group, and we're going to go through custom transformers and some of the capabilities for the next little while. Thank you for joining us. So first of all, we'll find out just a little bit about ourselves, One Spatial, and the FME product, but we'll very quickly focus our attention on what a transformer is, what a custom transformer is, importantly, why you'd want to use one, where you can get hold of them, how you can design them and handle schema and share them with your colleagues, and importantly we'll show you how you can work with them on a day-to-day basis. And there are also lots and lots of custom transformers available for you to go and get hold of that members of the community have created. And whether they're for making FME trees, as you can see from one of the FME users, Owen, or maybe you have a fun idea of something you want to do with FME using an FME home use license. When you try out and do something that's of interest to you individually, you can then take those learnings and use them in a context for your work or the business that you're in. So just a brief description of ourselves, One Spatial. We have a number of offices globally, and we work in all sorts of different sectors, whether that's utility or government sector or national mapping agencies. And a number of different customers use our technology, whether it's our own or whether it's a product that we resell. As you can see, we have a number of different technology partners, and you're obviously here today to focus your attention around the Safe Software company. That's for an organisation that we partner with. We're a platinum partner of Safe Software, and they make the FME product. FME comes in three different flavors. You have FME Desktop, which is the tool set that you use to author the workspaces and the workflows, the ETL capabilities, that's extract, transform and load, on your desktop. And you can then promote the data transformation and translation tools to your enterprise, so you can use them on FME Server. Or perhaps if your data is out in the cloud, or you're accessing data from your partners or customers, then maybe FME Cloud is the way to go for you, and that's FME Server hosted on a cloud environment. The FME division has a number of different capabilities. We've partnered with Safe since 1999, so we're rapidly approaching our 20th year of our relationship with Safe Software, and we provide support for all of the products, so that's FME Desktop, Server and Cloud. We build FME into our own solutions, but we also work with the main toolkits, and we've got quite a few FME practitioners around the globe, and a number of us who use FME on a daily basis have the certifications that Safe require from a partner. So we do all sorts of things with the FME toolkit. We'll help you work out whether FME is the right tool for you. We do consultancy call-off days. We do all sorts of training capabilities. So whether it's introductory or advanced or mentoring that you're looking for to enable you to be more performant with your investment, we can help you with that. Of course, we also sell FME and provide you with maintenance and technical support contracts. You're more than welcome to get in touch with us at fme@onespatial.com to find out any more about any of those things. However, you came here to find out about custom transformers. Now that suggests to me that actually what you are is a reasonably experienced user of FME already. So I'm not going to spend time talking to you about the FME product. If you'd like to know more about FME Desktop or FME Server, if you go to our on-demand pages on our website on onespatial.com, you'll see that there are a couple of webinars already there that you can go and watch in your own time, and you can see here that there's a session introducing you to FME Server and FME Desktop. So maybe you'll be interested in starting with those sessions to begin with. But thank you for joining us. Obviously we're going to focus our attention on transformers. What is a transformer? Well, a standard transformer is something that it's a tool that does something to your data. Now that part of your data that it can affect could be the schema, so that's the structure of the data, or it could be the individual rows or cells or records of the data itself, so that's the content that we're focusing on. What can you manipulate with a transformer? Well, it could be the attribution, the data columns themselves and the content within. The attribute manager is an example of a transformer that you can see there that does something to your attribution, your data attribution. But you can also do things to your geometry. So an example transformer there is the point on raster value extractor. It has an interesting name. That tool allows you to perhaps drape point data on top of a raster, perhaps a digital elevation model, and you might want to extract height information from the raster and glue it onto the point in order to work out how high up the point is. Now that might be an address that's near a coastline and you want to work out the propensity for flooding for that property. So by joining the two data sets together based on their geometry, you can answer that question. And there are hundreds of transformers out there available in the transformer gallery or via the quick add. And if you're less familiar with FME, maybe you want to have a look in the transformer gallery and have a look at the categories that are available, and you'll see there's different transformers available under each category to do different things to your data. And we'd recommend going and having a look at the transformer quick reference guide. There's a copy of it on our website you can go and have a look at. There's a little digital copy. So if I go to our website, onespatial.com/FME, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page here, you can see there's the Transformer Quick Reference Guide. And if you dive into this document, you'll see that there's a lot of detail about the different transformers and how you work with them, how they set up, how parameters work. And you can see in here that there is lots of shortcut keys for working with FME, but if we scroll through, we'll get to a point where we have a little abstract for each transformer, the name of it, and if it's relevant, a picture to show you a little bit of what it does. So there's a picture of the anchored snapper, allowing you to move one data set to snap to another one. So it's a very handy document. I would highly recommend you taking a look at it in a bit of detail. A couple of lunch times, quietly sitting in a corner, flicking through that little PDF or the booklet, if you're lucky enough to get a hard copy of the document, will allow you to stand in very good stead to understand a little bit more about FME. There's also another URL that you could go to that is very helpful. If you go to safe.com/transformers, you can see that this page lists all of the transformers available in FME with the help documentation, and importantly it's sorted by most used. So if you want to find out about which transformers might be useful to you, you can find out which ones most people are using, and it'll give you a little bit of an understanding of where to start in your FME journey with the different transformers that are available. However, you came here to find out about custom transformers, so the next step is to understand what they are and how we can work with them. Well, a custom transformer is actually a series of standard transformers that you or a colleague or perhaps somebody out there on the internet in the FME community has generated by taking a string of transformers, standard transformers, and combining them into a custom tool that will do a very specific job that will suit your need. Now that isn't something that necessarily is going to be used by hundreds or thousands of people. That's why it isn't yet a transformer that exists as a standard tool in FME. So you create it for your specific need. And any sequence of transformers can be turned into a custom transformer. And it allows you to hide effectively the complexity of an entire workspace behind a very simple interface. So it allows you to become a developer, and it allows you to also make other people in your organization give them the ability to access complex functionality behind a simple interface. So here's an example. This is our UK postcode validator. It's a nice simple interface, but behind it there is a series of transformers that carry out a set of tasks, validation tasks on a zip code, on an address, a piece of address information. So that complex workspace is hidden behind a transformer that allows a postcode in and valid or invalid information out. And the interface is very simple. All the user has to do is pick the field that contains the zip code or the postcode, click OK and hit run, and it will assess the content of that column. So why would you use a custom transformer? What are the reasons? Well, one common reason that people use them is to just tidy their workspace up. One of the benefits of a custom transformer is as soon as you create one, you can create an extra tab in your workspace. So in the interface, effectively, you get to see a little nested process tucked away in a separate tab. So it can tidy up the logic, condense down a particularly complex section of the workspace. One thing to bear in mind though is if you're actually looking to do just that with a custom transformer, perhaps FME 2018 is worth you trying, because that actually supports something called collapsible bookmarks, which has a similar capability without necessarily the need to build a custom transformer. So if that's your only reason for going down the custom transformer route, maybe FME 2018 and its collapsible bookmarks gives you an option to try. One of the other reasons is to reuse logic. So you can take a sequence of transformers, if you happen to have a workspace that has the same sequence of transformers used in it in multiple places, what you could do is create a custom transformer, and it means that then you can put that same set of capability nice and easily into more than one place in the same workspace, or you can distribute it between different workspaces. You can also very easily share the logic and the capability inside the custom transformer with colleagues. You can export the file. It becomes a .fmx if you export or publish a custom transformer. And if you put it in a common network share, then nobody else needs to worry about having it on their machine. FME will connect to that network share and automatically show you that custom tool. So it's a very easy way of having a series of transformers within your own organization that do a specific job just for your organization. If you have FME server, you can publish your FME custom transformer to server and make them available using the server interface. And also your ETL processes running on server can make use of those custom tools if they're available on FME server. And one of the other things to consider if you are interested in looking at becoming a certified FME professional is perhaps increasing your kudos, your reputation in the FME community by taking your custom transformer and publishing it for other people to use in the wider FME community. And that can be done through the FME Hub, which is accessible via knowledge.safe.com, and more on that in a little while. You can also easily maintain the logic and any updates to those tools that you create. One of the reasons for having a custom transformer is that rather than having all of those multiple bits of code, effectively all those extra transformers distributed around your workspace, and if you need to make any change you have to do it 4 or 5 different times, you can bundle up your transformers into a custom transformer. If you need to make a change, you make the change to the custom transformer, and all of your workspaces will automatically update as long as they are linked to that version of the custom transformer. So it's a really useful way of sharing and changing and being much more focused around the maintenance of your transformer. You can also have versioning inside the transformer, so if you make a change you can save it out as a separate version into the same file, and that means that just like versioning in standard transformers, you can manage the distribution of any changes you make to your users. and they can always decide to move to the latest version or stay on the existing one. So how do we go about using them? Well, this is a very simple workspace that you can see on screen. You can see that I'm reading in a parks dataset with a reader on the left hand side. There is a little bit of attribute management and filtering going on to filter out some of the parks. This is polygon data that we're working with. I then pass 73 polygons into a little area where I'm going to calculate the size of each park, and then I want to know what the average park size is. So that's a simple workspace that I'm then writing the data back out to MapInfo tab. So here's an example of exactly the same scenario, but this time the statistics calculation is condensed down into a custom transformer, and that might mean, might be because I want to reuse that little capability in another workspace, or maybe somewhere else in the same workspace. So that green tool is the custom transformer that allows us to do the area calculation. So let's go and have a look at how we actually do this. So here I have FME Workbench, and I'm just going to go and find a workspace and bring that into view. Okay, so here's the same workspace, and I want to focus my attention on this area just in the middle here. Okay, you can see that I'm filtering out the different geometry types, so I have a little error trap because I only want to calculate an area of a polygon. So ellipses and areas are filtered out. Calculate the area into an area attribute and then work out the average using the statistics calculator. Now I can select these transformers and I can right click and I can create a custom transformer, or I could right click and create a custom transformer from all the objects in the bookmark, and that's what I'm going to choose to do. So create the custom transformer, and I'm going to call this the area average calculator. And I would suggest that it's very wise at this point to provide a little bit of metadata about your custom transformer, because you want people to know how to use it and what it's intended for. So this is a very simple one. This transformer there we go. So a little bit of metadata, and you might want to provide a little bit of help information and any dependencies that are necessary, and you could also put in here the details of the date that you created it, so that you can have different version information included as well. So importantly, you want people to know who to come and find if they need some changes, and this is going to be the initial release. Okay, so we also want to put it into a category, and I'm going to put it into a category called webinar. So there's the tab that I mentioned that now appears. So if I just zoom in a little bit on this, you can see that we have our sequence of transformers. We have an input coming in, an output going out, and this comes in from the workspace and goes back out to the workspace. If I go back to the main tab, you can see that I now have this area average calculator that's been created. Okay, so there's my geometry filter input and my statistics calculator completed port out at the other end. Okay, so it's that simple to create the little custom transformer. Where can I find custom transformers? How do I go and get hold of them? Well, there's a few different locations that you can browse or find these tools. Let's go and have a look back at Workbench, and you can see in here that there's a transformer gallery, and under the transformer gallery, if I collapse down the main categories, I can go into the FME hub. You may need to push the refresh button down at the bottom left here. That relies on you actually having an internet connection. So if you can't get FME to connect to the internet, one of the things that you might have to do is go to Tools and FME Options and go to your network proxy settings and adjust the proxy settings that are stored in here in order for FME to get across to the internet to be able to go and access the transformers that are available. So here's a series of transformers, and you can see that they have different icons associated with them. If it has a little link, it means that you've already got hold of that transformer. If there's a little arrow, it means that it's available on the internet for you to go and download, and you don't have a local copy of it. The other thing that you can do is you can use quick add in FME as well. So I can come into the interface and I can type KML, and you can see there's a series of standard transformers that are KML related. But also you can see that there is something called the KML diagrammer, and you can see it's one I've used before because I've already got it with that little link. So I can add it onto my canvas and take a look at it. And if you wanted to know what's behind the scenes, some custom transformers are available for you to edit and go and have a look at. So you can click on the edit button, and it'll open up the details of that transformer so you can see what's going on. So now there's nothing stopping you changing the structure of that transformer to do something specific for you. Even though it was designed by somebody else, you can go and make a change to it if it perhaps suits your needs better with an adjustment to it. So now I'm going to remove the last instance of that transformer from my workspace. So custom transformers then are a very handy little utility. There are plenty of them available. They're available, and FME Desktop is connecting directly to the FME Hub. So that's at hub.safe.com. And on the FME Hub you can see that there are a series of things that you could go and look for. So there's lots of transformers, and that's what we're focusing our attention on, but there's also custom formats, templates, web connections, and you can download all of those. And you can see in here that there are transformers being added here all the time. Here's one that deals with flight statistics. It's only had 2 downloads, but it's actually only been available for 6 days. So that's a new transformer that's turned up. And these are listed by newest, but you could go and have a look at the most downloaded. And you can see that the vertex extractor is one of the most downloaded. And you'll see that quite a few of these are published by developers at Safe Software, but they may be published by different organizations or reseller partners, there's the message logger that is a transformer that has been produced by ourselves. So there's all sorts of tools here that may or may not be of use to you, but you can go and browse and work out what you'd like to use. Now you can also tidy up your transformers and make them a little bit more useful. So let me just dive back. So we could go and rename and standardize some of the port names. You can even add extra ports in. Let's go and have a look at that same workspace that we were working on a moment ago. And you can see here that actually we probably want to make the ports here a little bit more obvious so that our end user understands what they're supposed to put in and what they're going to get out of the workflow. If we go to the average area calculator, you can see that there's a couple of things we can do. Well, first of all, we can just go and edit this port, and we can change it to a standard name that matches some of the other standard transformers. So we'll just define it as the input. Over on the end of the transformer, we'll define this as the output. The other thing that we might want to do is actually add in an extra port. So at the moment over on this custom transformer we only have 1 input and 1 output. I need to go and rename that clearly. So let's go and just change that. We don't want an input coming out, that would be a little bit silly. So there we go, we've got our output. So we want an error trap in here. We've got some potentially some rejected features. So if we go and add in an extra port, if we go to the transformer drop down, we can insert a transformer input, output, or a loop. Insert the transformer output is what we want. And you can see that as soon as we do that, we get another output port. If I dive across here, what I'm going to do is actually connect it up so it is of use. And I'm going to turn this into a port called rejected. And now any rejected features will make their way out of here. So that we effectively have an error trap in our workspace. And if we're going to do that, well, it would be not very sensible to leave that disconnected, so we're going to hook it up to a transformer called a logger. And the logger is a sibling, a brother, a sister of the inspector transformer. Instead of launching a separate application, what it actually does is send the records down into the log. And in the logger in FME 2018, we can raise the security level, so we can push it up to a blue warning, and that's a warning that will feature down in the log, down at the bottom. We can log and record, so we'll get all the information about the individual features, and we can put a message in here, so rejected features, and in this case rejected features from the area calculation. So now we can log those out. So next we need to discuss handling custom transformers, and handling the schema within the custom transformer is the component that we want to look at here. This is handled with published parameters, and published parameters can be generated effectively for each of your input attributes that you want to use in the custom transformer, and they're then subsequently available in the custom transformer window, and also available to be published in the workspace if the user wants to change those at runtime. So let's go and take a look at that in a little bit more detail. So I'm just going to grab a workspace, and this is a scenario that you may be familiar with prior to using a custom transformer. Here we have a dataset input, and we have a series of transformers that we would like to be generic so that they work on any potentially any input data. So what we want to be able to do is issue a publish parameter here. So we've got one set up, and this is a if we go on edit the definition, you can see that it's an attribute name publish parameter. And what it allows us to do is when we run this workspace with prompt and run, we can select the attribute that we want to carry out some effort on. In this case, we define the postcode, and then we use a transformer called the attribute creator, and we're creating an attribute, a generic attribute called test postcode, to contain the value of the parameter, in this case test field. And then from there on in, every transformer can work on the test postcode attribute. So there you can see test postcode in the attribute validator as well. So it allows us at any point to remove this dataset, add in a new dataset with a different field name. So it might be lowercase postcode, it might be P code, it might be code, it might be zip code, and we can just get the user to choose the name of the field that the rest of the workspace is going to perform its analysis on. So let's go and have a look how that happens inside a custom transformer. Here you can see a workspace that includes the same housing stock dataset and our postcode validator, but instead what we have is a drop-down box inside the custom transformer, allowing us to pick the field that contains the postcode. Now that actually is defined inside the transformer, and you can see that there's a publish parameter here, and that publish parameter passes in via the input. This is where it's defined, the postcode attribute that goes in, and then that is worked on inside the workflow, and you can see that the postcode is then a consistent value throughout the workspace. And you can see at the right hand end the attributes that are coming out are the postcode in the validated form, and if it fails you'll get the original postcode plus a validation message. So you get the ability to handle the schema through the custom transformer instead. So when you go about sharing your custom transformer, the first thing to do is to consider preparing the way really for that custom transformation. So what you can see here is that if you go into the FME tools, options and default paths, you can go in and you can set up a share directory. And if you work in a larger organization, this is very useful to collaborate with your colleagues on. One individual should go and create a network share somewhere on a drive that you can all access, and then let the others know what the path is so that they can edit their FME settings to point at the same directory. From there on in, when one of you downloads a custom transformer or makes one, you put it into this shared directory, and then everybody in your organization has access to it and can see it. So what we first need to do though is to go and export a custom transformer. So let's go and have a go at that. So I've got an instance of Workbench here. I need to go and get the same workspace that we were looking at earlier on. And what you can see is if we come into the File drop-down menu, you have the ability to export a custom format and export a custom transformer, but the custom transformer is grayed out, so it's not possible to do that here. So what we actually need to do is go to the individual tab where the custom transformer is defined and its individual definition is stored. And now if we go to the File drop-down menu, you can see that we can actually export it. So I'm going to export it as a custom transformer. It's going to be created as the area average calculator. I'm going to put it into a category called webinar, and we're going to say that in this case it's going to be embedded by default, but it could be linked if the user wants to. We're not going to assign a password, but we are going to put it into the share. So it's going to export it. It's actually going to generate a separate file, so that's going to be an FMX file, and you can see that now it's available just here. And if we go and have a look in that location, you can see that we now have an FMX file stored in here that we can have access to. So there's our area average calculator that's just been generated. So now we have our custom transformer. What can we do with it? So it can either be embedded or linked, and that means that the color of the transformer will be different, so it will indicate the difference between the two. If you right click on the average area calculator in this case, you can make it a linked transformer and then it'll change color. But what does that mean? Well, an embedded transformer, the definition of it is stored in the workspace. Now it can either be embedded without being exported, or you can export it and then embed it. And it means that if someone makes a change to the transformer, it won't then subsequently change in your workspace. Now, typically embedded transformers don't have an external file with them, but you can take a custom transformer and embed it even if it's been exported. Generally, they're not as reusable when they're embedded, especially when they're brand new and haven't been exported. And it's quite easy to comprehend and understand a definition of a custom transformer when it's just tucked away in a single workspace. It's often the default when the workspace has been created that it will be embedded. A linked transformer, on the other hand, can exist outside of a single workspace. You can once you've exported your transformer and stored it as an FMX file, then what you can do with that transformer is, as I mentioned, you can edit the tool as a power user of FME, and anybody who has that transformer in their workspace and it's set to being linked, it will get automatically updated if you've edited the same version of the transformer. However, as versioning is supported, the power user could edit and create a brand new version, in which case you can then, as a linked transformer, you can go and upgrade it, so you get a much more manageable way of accepting changes to the workflow. So how do you go about installing a custom transformer? Well, here's an example of a transformer that I've already downloaded. I'm just going to go and show you that example here. So there's the Vertex extractor transformer. It's one of the most popular custom transformers that you can get from the FME Hub. If I double click it, it will install it and go and put it into my network share. my default location. Alternatively, I can go directly to the FME hub, and I can go and actually find that location, and I can go and take a look. So let's have a look here. So let's go to hub.safe.com. I'll bring that link in. There we go. And if I search for transformers, you can see that there's the flight statistics transformer, and I could go ahead and download it. And there it is. If I then click it, it will install that transformer on my machine. Now we could go and have a little bit of fun here. We can use a transformer to actually use FME to go and find out a little bit more about FME. There is on the hub an FME hub API connector. If we go and have a look in the hub here, you can see that that transformer exists, and it allows us to go and query the FME hub API. So let's go and build a workspace to deal with that. So we'll have a creator, we'll have an FME hub API connector, we'll have a sorter and an inspector. And we're going to go on list all of the transformers that are available, and we're going to sort them, and we're going to sort them by the most downloaded. So if we go for numeric, descending, and this will give us a way of seeing what transformers are available and how many there are and how popular some of them are. So here you can see there's 492 custom transformers available on the hub, and in the inspector, if we go over here, you can see that here's a list of all the transformers that are available. The most popular is an iterative snipper, but that has now been deprecated. So the vertex extractor is the one that is the most popular by download. And there's OneSpatial's message logger, which is also reasonably popular. It is at least inside the top 10. So it's a good way to go and discover new transformers by using a custom transformer. And just to finish up, we thought we'd throw in a few interesting custom transformers that we like. Obviously the UK postcode validator and the message logger are two that we've created, so of course we like them. But there's a few others that you might want to go and have a look at. The OpenStreetMap downloader allows you to go on, as it suggests, download OpenStreetMap data directly from the internet. That allows you to generate, effectively define a bounding box of area that you would like to download. The Twilio caller uses the Twilio API to allow you to send text messages or voice messages to telephones. The photo coordinate extractor is interesting because it allows you to get into the EXIF metadata stored inside a photograph that you've taken with a smartphone or a GPS enabled device, and you can get the latitude and longitude information out of the EXIF information, the metadata. The unique value logger is a particular favorite of mine. It allows you to filter a field based on the unique values that are stored in that column and list them out into the log window, and it also provides you with a count of how many there are of each category, of each classification. The update detector is very popular, and it's used commonly with databases when you're trying to work out more than what the standard change detector can do. In this case, find out records or features that have been updated, in addition to those that have been inserted or deleted or haven't been changed, which is what the standard change detector can cope with. And then if you have to work with nothing, then there's a couple of transformers that can help you out. The no features tester identifies a part of your workflow where no features have passed through, and it actually generates a dummy feature. So it's often handy to work out or identify where there is no data, and then you could tag a record or tag a particular part of your workflow to identify that there is nothing to work with at that point. There are a handful of use cases where that can be really useful. And then the file existence checker is also very useful, particularly when you're scheduling a service or a process to run overnight, and you need to first of all identify that the file or the data that you're working with is available. So that's a handy little custom transformer to use. So just a final word on transformers. Definitely use versioning if you're using transformers within your business. If you make a change, apply it to a new version, and it means that then your end users within your organization can choose to upgrade if it's going to benefit them, the changes that you've made. Do add some metadata so that everybody who downloads your transformer knows what it's for, what its intended use for was, any dependencies, and they know how to get hold of you if they want to know more about it. I suggest you remove any inspectors and perhaps use logger transformers instead if you're using them inside the transformer. It's much more practical rather than launching a separate application to have a look at the data. And do share your custom transformers internally by setting up a network store to put the FMX files into, or publish on the FME hub. And one thing we would definitely say is don't just embark on building a custom transformer without going and checking to see if it's already available on the hub. It's quite likely that somebody may have tackled the challenge or something that's very similar that you can download and go and edit to be closer to what you need. And if you want to know what a loop is a capability that you can adopt and add into a custom transformer. It will help you in scenarios where you need to pass data through a particular part of your workspace multiple times to achieve an end result. Go and take a look at bit.ly/loopyaboutfme, and there's a little YouTube video to show you how to create a custom transformer that contains a loop just there. And to finish up, I'd like to thank you very much for attending today's webinar, and if you want to find out more, please go to onespatial.com/FME. Over on the Knowledge Centre, knowledge.safe.com, there's a very good place to go and find out lots more about how to do something in all of the FME products. And of course, if you're one of our maintenance customers, you're more than welcome to send us an email at our support desk, and we can help you out as part of your maintenance and support agreement. If you go to YouTube, you'll see that there is an FME channel. There is also a OneSpatial group channel. Both of those contain many historic webinars and how-to and help videos that you can go and browse at your leisure. And you'll also find, of course, the hub. Hub.safe.com is where all the shareable items are. If you want to ask us anything else about FME, please email us at fme@onespatial.com. But for now, I'd like to thank you very much for joining our webinar. And if you go to onespatial.com/events, after this session, you can go and sign up for the other webinars in this series. Thanks very much.